this is not with how things going before.
The police committee this way, I do think it gets some really difficult trade-offs. I do want to, the benefit of Carson along with this being good here, I want to give her a platform as well. But like, here's some of what she said. Let's call the wrong person.
Papa. It's me. It's
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming to this meeting. We'll begin shortly. I am still waiting for more people from the community board that can vote on this matter for this committee to begin. I hope everyone is keeping warm and preparing themselves for the cold.
We can't hear you if you're speaking.
I can't hear you. This is Shirley Monders here.
Perfect. Okay, so now I'm completely unmuted. Thank you guys. I'm sorry I've been talking to myself all this time. I've been asking people to identify themselves who's calling, so let me apologize for a little bit of a tardy start. I think we now have the critical mass that we need to be able to make our votes this evening, and I'm doing a bit of double duty tonight, so I'm going to be calling the roll, and after I call the roll, I'm going to ask persons who are calling in if they will identify themselves. And one of our members, who is Mr. Pierre Albert, will be helping me out in identifying raised hands. And if there are any items that are put in the chat so that we can repeat them. Remember, the focus of our meeting is going to be the conversation that we have with one another and informational purposes only. So let's begin. Mr. Pierre Albert.
Present.
Thank you. Oh, hold on one second. Go. Here we go. Ms. Pierre Albert, Mr. Albert Appleton.
Do it from your computer.
Lisa Atkinson.
Present.
Thank you, Lisa. Princess Ben James.
Present. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Jacques Brunville.
Present.
Robert Callahan.
Here.
Nora Daniel. Michael Francoeur. Najani Granville. Karen Gray.
Here.
Jennifer Jordan.
Here.
Zerzima Jordan.
Here.
Peter Crashes.
Here.
Nicola May.
Here.
Francis Langley.
Here.
Sarah Lazar.
Here.
Kwasi Menza.
Here.
Mimi Mitchell.
Present.
Fiora Ortiz.
Present.
Jack Robinson.
Present.
Kim Robinson.
Present.
Mark Thurton. Ethel Tyus.
My state's getting bigger and skinnier.
Gib Baconi.
My stick is getting.
Yersa Weatherspoon. Sharon Wedderburn, present. Elaine Weinstein, present.
Here. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm
It's
answering for
okay.
you. I shouldn't be
It's
doing
okay.
that. Deborah Young.
Present.
Okay. All right, guys, we have a quorum. All right, so we're going to have an interesting evening. We have two matters that are coming before us for a matter of certificate of appropriateness. The first item that's on the agenda is for 857 St. Mark's Avenue. Is the representative or the applicant present, please?
Yeah, present.
Okay, can you identify who's speaking, please?
I'm John. I'm the homeowner.
Okay, Ms. Markowitz. Okay, are you making the presentation yourself, or or is there someone speaking on your behalf?
Glenn Josie is here, and he will be speaking.
Hi, I'm Glenn Josie.
He's here.
Hey, Mr. Josie, welcome, Ms. Markowitz. Mr. Josie, you can begin, please.
Yes, so I believe John A. had sent in a presentation a little while ago. But since then, there's been a number of developments that have happened. So I'll start with the basics of the project, and then I'll go into speaking about what has occurred since then.
Okay.
Janae and her husband and her mother have needed to replace their roof on their main house. And they were also looking at doing some work on the carriage house in the back. But the roof on the main house was starting to leak. And being that this was a landmark building, we went to Landmarks and asked if we could use a asphalt shingle roof instead of the slate roof that is on there. We picked out the GAF slate line shingles, which are the GAF shingles are made specifically to replace slate shingles. We were told by Landmarks that they wanted the roof replaced in kind. And so we started looking at the pricing of regular slate shingles, which we found prohibitively expensive. We were getting costs somewhere in the range between $250 to almost like $300,000. And for two working people, it's a little bit hard to come up with $250,000 to replace your roof. So we spoke back to Landmarks and asked if we could look at alternatives, either replacing part of it with another material. At first, we were looking at just using the asphalt shingles on the side where it wouldn't be visible. Then we started looking at replacing the entire roof with a synthetic shingle. The synthetic shingles they take a while to come in, and they are still quite expensive. So as we kept going and trying to find, and in some cases, some companies didn't even want to deal with it. One of the reasons why is because Landmarks was saying that we would need to have a better match in color than what we were able to find through their standard colors. So we started looking for custom colors and having to have pieces of the roof removed and sent to try to get samples. And during this process, the water started coming into the house a little bit more, and we decided, okay, well, we really need to look at going in a different route. So we, Johnny and our husband decided that they wanted to come to Landmarks and the community board to see if they could use use a different shingle. Last week, and this is where things changed. Last week, there was a significant change where part of the house is coming in around the chimney in the front bedroom. The plaster has completely fallen in. I went there yesterday to take a look at it as we opened up more of the area. There are some of the roof rafters are completely destroyed. The plaster is gone. It looks like pieces of the decking are worn through, and so we are now gotten into an emergency situation. If we are to go with a slate shingle, we could get that quicker, but as I said at the beginning, that is prohibitively expensive to get. The synthetic shingles, those at the best will take about 3 months to get. So we would like to replace the entire roof with an asphalt GAF slate line shingle so that we can save the house and not have more damage done to the house and more structural damage and not make the situation worse. and get this repair done very quickly.
Okay, thank you for that summary. I know that you've had numerous changes, and I understand that you've been in contact with Crown Heights North Association about that. Ms. Young, I believe the association has written a letter and had subsequent communication. Would you share that with the committee, please?
Yes, before I share that, I would like to ask the applicant to just give a little more information about how long they've been dealing with this problem and how long they've been trying to work with landmark preservation to get this issue resolved. I think it's important for
We're
the
on
committee to hear.
so we're on year 3 with dealing with landmarks and this roof. Well, part of the problem was we started during COVID, so there was always a delay getting materials. We repeatedly told landmarks that the roof was obviously getting worse from the water damage, and that we really needed to repair the roof, and they did not care. There was a time when Glenn submitted about 19 synthetic slate colors, and none of them were approved. So every time they wanted a new color, we had to wait during COVID to receive the samples. Then when we got to the point where they wanted a custom color, we had to wait to get the custom color done, have someone come to the house, remove slate, fill in the slate on a roof that was already leaking so that the custom color could be made. And that company still has not given us that custom color. We started reaching out to other companies that do custom colors, and we were told that for the amount we need, it doesn't even make any sense. We would have to buy extra synthetic slate shingles to fulfill the order because the roof doesn't need enough to fill a custom order. And now we're at a point where the person we're dealing with at Landmarks is now suggesting things we suggested during year 1. And one of those things was the gaff line, slate line shingle, which we were told last week that perhaps we'd have an answer on this week for approval for the roof. And then today we were told that the staff can't make a determination about an asphalt shingle. So for days now, we've been hoping, oh, great, we'll hear back about the asphalt shingle that they suggested, but we suggested 2 years ago.
Thank you for that. Okay, just in terms of the Crown Heights North Association's position, I want to also share that the applicant reached out to us last year in November, and we made a few suggestions for them to explore other resources of which we've since learned that they're not eligible for. And in view of them, the applicant doing due diligence, trying to work with Landmark Preservation Commission, trying to get this issue resolved, and now being challenged with, a health and safety issue in their home to their family, we are recommending that we support the applicant's request.
Thank you, Ms. Young. I would now open this up to persons from the community, not the committee, that have questions about this application. You can raise your hand, and barring such ability to raise your hands, you can wave if you're on camera. At this moment, I see no raised hands. I'd like to open up the opportunity for committee members to ask questions of the applicant. Mr. Albert, can you please help me to identify raised hands?
Sure, I see Gib Vaconi, I see Sarah Lazar's hand is up, and not sure whose hand went up first though.
Okay, so we're going to say ladies first, Ms. Lazar.
Yeah, it's Lazar. Yeah, I was wondering, this sounds so stressful. I'm sorry that you're going through it. I was wondering if you had a chance to talk to the St. Mark's Independent Block Association. It seems like I live on just the next block over, but I'm a tenant, so I don't know these things. But it seems like there's a pretty robust block association. I don't know if maybe any of the members of that block association might have, I don't know, I just thought maybe they might have suggestions or help, or who knows, maybe somebody's replaced their slates recently and has a bunch of extra tiles left over. I was just wondering if you'd had a chance to talk to them.
No, and the majority of homes on my block already have shingle roofs. I think only 3 homes left that have slate. So I wouldn't, there wouldn't really be anyone with.
Hello, I'm not sure if you can hear me. I cannot get a visual. This is Shirley Mondesir, who is the president of St. Mark's Avenue Block Association.
Ms. Mondesir, can you hold on 1 second? Can you hold on
sure.
1 second and let the applicant finish what she has to say? Then I'll call on you, ma'am. Thank you.
Certainly. Okay.
Oh, well, that was it. Also, Shirley is my neighbor, and we speak to her all the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Ms. Mondesir, go ahead.
Hi.
Okay. I was just saying that we have spoken about my roof in comparison to her roof. I have not had that problem with mine and my slate. I did have a couple of pieces repaired or replaced rather with synthetic, but I haven't had that problem with my roof that she's been having with her.
Let's look at it.
Thank you, Ms. Mondesir.
You're welcome.
Gib?
Hi, good evening. And I apologize, I joined kind of in the middle of that presentation, but I just wanted to ask, and I'm sorry that this was covered, but is there any opportunity to do some kind of a temporary repair to avert more damage to your house while you're waiting to sort out how to get materials that the Landmarks Commission will approve?
So I called the emergency number when the wall above the mantle caved in because it's 2 floors above my boiler and I was concerned about carbon monoxide coming in. So luckily, and it's actually interesting, it was one of the first times that I've gotten a human on the phone or had anyone respond to me because I've called and emailed them throughout the years and they never called me back or emailed me back. So we have been approved for a tarp as a temporary fix, so at least more water won't come in while we figure out, while we, attend the landmarks hearing and whatnot.
Okay, and have you done that? Have you installed the tarp?
No, because I need to submit something else and then they will give me the permit and we can have the tarp put up.
Okay, but what do you have to submit? Is it onerous or is this something you can get done? Because it sounds like the situation is pretty dire.
Actually, Landmarks responded today saying,
Glenn, you're on mute, Glenn.
Oh, we can hear him.
Landmarks responded today and they said that we told them that we were going to have a tarp put up and they said that they would issue a permit for that now.
Okay, that's good.
It just came up today.
So will that mitigate further damage to your house and so you have an opportunity to get the materials you need?
Yes, on a temporary basis.
Okay, so if that's taken care of, then the request to use materials other than those that Landmarks is recommending is a budget concern. You've averted now like more imminent damage to your home. Is that accurate?
We're for, as it is only a tarp and it's not a full roof or anything, that the tarp does have limited ability to mitigate any further damage. As for, we still don't want it to open up and leave it open for a long period of time. But then on top of that, it is the financial concern.
Okay. I mean, it sounds like I think I heard you say you have a couple of weeks until you expect to get the sample back from the synthetic tile manufacturer you contacted?
Correct.
Okay. I mean, is it okay? So from a mitigation point of view, the tarp might be able to make it a couple weeks, but you think you'd want to be doing the asphalt tile anyway because of budget reasons?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm going to say that it's not typical for us to get behind. I don't know that we often get behind exceptions to the landmarks guidance for budget. It's not that we're not sympathetic, but it opens up a little bit of a slippery slope for which there's no real way back up, in my view. So I would really recommend you continue with the supplier with the tile now that you've mitigated the potential for at least other imminent damage. Thank you.
Pierre, I'm so sorry. Can you help me? Are there any other persons with raised hands?
Yes, I see Jack Robinson, Fior Ortiz, and then I also see Robert Callahan.
Okay, so in that order, Robinson, Fior Ortiz, and Mr. Callahan. Jack?
Yeah, a roof is not a slippery slope. It's a roof, it's part of a house. This is very important to this family that this get approved. It seems like if this is, there's only 3 other houses on the block that have the same roof, that's the historical value is nil at this point as compared to what a family needs to stay dry and stop the house from falling apart. If that's, you know, a reason for history.
Thank you, Jack. Ms. Ortiz?
Yes, thank you. Being a board member of the Crown Heights North Association, I can understand what Mr. Vacconi has stated, but I can also agree with some of the things that Mr. Robinson has said as well. And if the owner could clarify, I know that you said that LPC is now agreeing with certain things that you had proposed 2 years ago. Can you repeat what that is?
We wanted to use the slate line asphalt shingle, and they said no, use real slate. Then when we said no to that, they said use synthetic. Then they turned down every sample of the synthetic and required custom. And now that there is an issue with the custom, they mentioned the GAF slate line shingle again, which looks exactly like slate, except it's made out of asphalt and is the exact color.
And LPC is not approving that.
They can't approve that on a staff level. That is why I need to have a hearing.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mr. Callahan?
Thanks. Just wanted to make sure that I fully understand for the applicant the alternative material that is I guess custom made that you would be getting samples for. What is your wait time on being able to get that material? Not even the sample. Like assuming that the sample is acceptable, how long would it be before you would have that sample even ready to install on the roof?
So just to answer that, we would have so it's 2 to 3 weeks to get the sample now. Then after we have the sample approved, then it has to go into production, and then that's going to take probably about another month or 2.
And the timeline on the alternative material, the slate lined asphalt, what are we talking about there?
Weeks.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you could tell I'm inclined to say that a tarp is a pretty onerous solution for any amount of time. And to say that it is acceptable as a material is pretty that stretches the imagination. I'm inclined to say that I would be in favor of asphalt. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Callahan. Mr. Zhu?
Hello.
Sorry.
It's all good. I'm Ms. Markovitz's neighbor on the other side from Ms. Mondesir, so I spent plenty of time looking at this house. It is a really, really beautiful house. It has many rich historical details. But it feels really clear to me that, you know, for historical preservation differences, the difference between slate lined asphalt tiles and slate tiles is not going to make or break, you know, what this house looks like. And as everyone else has been repeating, having a tarp as a part of a roof, you know, for this family that has a child living in it just feels really not like a reasonable solution. So if it matters at all, I've voiced my full-throated support that, you know, especially since they've gone through every single possible loophole way to try to work with Landmarks in earnest, in good faith. It seems like they've really given it their best, and this is the only reasonable solution.
Thank you so much for that. Ms. Young, is your hand raised again?
Yes, it is.
Okay, go ahead.
I wanted to say, you know, and I understand Mr. Vaccone's position, and normally I would side with that. But under these circumstances, and if I'm clear now that Landmark Preservation is willing to approve the project that the material that they initially proposed, the applicant proposed. So it seems like it's a moot point for us to belabor this. I'm ready to make a motion that we support this application based on the applicant, you know, doing due diligence, trying to do the right thing, that it appears that LPC is now agreeing to let them use something that they suggested or recommended 2 years ago, in view of the health and safety issues and the potential damage to their home. I would just like to recommend that I'm making a motion that we support this application.
I would like to second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion that has been made and has been seconded, but there are other hands, so we're going to have discussion. Mr. Vacconi?
I just want to clarify, is the proposal to use the material you originally suggested to Landmarks, which now they're willing to let you use?
So Landmarks said today that they're not able to approve an asphalt slate shingle at a staff level. It does have to go in front of the full LPC. Last week, when this first came up, they sent back to Janae, the homeowner, the same shingles that we sent to them 2 years before.
And they said they would likely be approved at a certificate of appropriateness hearing?
Well, this is the thing. The staff, we were speaking with the staff, and the staff can't speak for the board.
No, I understand how Landmarks works, but this is what are we doing here? We're basically saying, I'm not sure what we're doing. This isn't a certificate of appropriateness application. We're just rendering an opinion that it's okay for you to do this without staff approval and without going for a certificate of appropriateness, even though it looks like you would get approved by the commissioners for a COA. Is that right?
What they said is we have to go through the full process and come to you guys to get your recommendation. Then we have to go to the full community board for their recommendation, and then go to the full LPC, which meets on February 28th for that approval.
Yeah, that all could happen. Why aren't we doing that? We would approve that tonight.
Well, there's been a motion and it's been seconded.
No, but I understand, but I don't understand what we're doing now. Because we could be hearing a COA application and they could be going ahead with the approval from the commission, just like the architect pointed out.
I think what's changed, Gib, is that between the time they were calendared for this meeting and their interim communications with LPC, the story has changed. That's why they're calendared tonight.
But this, okay, I understand, but it sounds like they can do the thing that they want to do as just with a COA, which is something we do all the time.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
So the motion that was made
is going around that process and recommending not to do the COA, but it sounds like the COA could get done in a couple of weeks. So I'm not really sure why going around the process would be warranted now. As it is, I will probably not support this motion because it seems like we should just be doing the COA and have them do the materials that LPC says they'll allow.
So Mr. Josie, is this something that you're certain of, that LPC, the staff level at LPC now says that they would approve the material that you suggested?
they are not saying if they will approve or won't. Last week, we are getting mixed signals from them. Last
Okay.
week, they sent it to us and they said we could use it. Today, they were asking about other things. We're getting mixed signals. We're asking.
Luckily, it's all in writing. It's all in writing. 1 minute, oh, why don't you use the product that you guys submitted 2 years ago? And the next minute, you know, and sorry, Glenn, hate to interrupt you. Landmarks told us to come to this meeting to have this discussion with you. And then today we were told because you need to meet with the community board because the shingles will have to be approved at a Landmarks meeting with the commissioner.
Now I'm confused.
Is that Ms. Young?
Yeah, I'm
So
sorry.
hold on, there are other people that have questions to ask. So let's hear what they have to say. So I'm going to ask Mimi, Sarah, and since Jack and Nix are sharing a screen, I don't know whom. Have I captured everyone? Mr. Albert?
Could I just try to clarify one thing? At this point, everybody is confused who's involved with this. We do not know what Landmarks will or will not approve. What we are coming now and saying is we would like to use the asphalt shingles. That is what we were trying to get the approval for and go through each of the steps so that we can get the asphalt shingles approved by February 28th at a Landmarks meeting. So regardless of what the staff is saying at this point, because we get mixed signals and every day that we speak to them, they tell us something different and we have this in writing. We are simply asking to use the asphalt shingles because they are affordable. We can get them quickly and it will work.
Okay, thank you for that.
Mr.
So
Josie,
I'm
you
gonna-
just answered my question. That was exactly
Mimi?
what I was going to ask. Yeah,
Okay,
my
so
hand was
Mimi,
up.
can you
so-
clarify your question so it can be a clarifying matter for other people in the committee? What
My
was your question?
Yeah, my question was going to be, what exactly does Ms. Markowitz need from this committee? And what exactly do you need as a motion so that we can assist you? We seem to firmly, at least from what I can tell, be in support of making changes that would make things a little bit easier for them. So I think that Ms. Young had already made a motion. So if Gibb needs us to be more specific, then I was going to ask Mr. Josie what he needs. But what I
Okay,
heard is he needs approval of asphalt shingles. If we're
Okay, so
correct on
let's-
that, then I'd love
let's-
to make a motion.
Let's wait, let's hold on that because there are other committees and other committee members that would like to speak. And then at the end of this conversation, I will ask either Ms. Young to restate her motion because we have a motion and it's seconded, or someone
Okay.
to amend the motion specifically. So let's just hold on for a minute, okay?
Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Lazar?
Yeah, thank you. I would just like to say that in general, on matters involving the Crown Heights North Historic District, I like to be able to follow what Crown Heights North Association recommends on these things because they have a knowledge base about these things that that isn't my bailiwick, I guess. But I guess I'm also just concerned about this. It seems like this is something that covers this turret, and I'm just imagining if the weather were to get really bad and if this turret were to be so damaged that it falls off the building, there's no way to really, it's like the historical integrity of the facade is really going to be damaged if the roof is so damaged that the rest of the structure can't remain. I don't know. I guess my 2 points are that when CHNA feels comfortable with something like this, I feel comfortable with something like this. And then secondly, I'm just concerned about the possible further damage to this facade, further deteriorating the integrity of. So I'm going to vote for the motion, just putting it out there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Lazar. Nix or Jack, I'm not sure which of you, since you're sharing a screen, who would like to say something?
It's me, Nix, and I'm just like feeling for the family because it's been like 3 years. They really tried to do the right thing. And I agree with Sarah Lazar, sorry, that now it's about the integrity, not only of the family, but the historical building. And a roof is like water damage is the worst. And I understand, I'm originally from Germany. I understand the whole point of historical preservation of old buildings, but if now the slate of a roof, I'm sorry, is slightly more affordable to a family who's lived there for a long time and maybe not that historically appropriate, I go for like, let's provide safety for the family and the building and let's get it done. So I'm all for like voting for the family's application. Thank you.
Thank you, Nix. Gib?
I'm sorry to keep just seeking to clarify this, but I think I get it now. There's going to be a COA hearing in front of the commission on February 28th. You definitely are going to be appearing in front of the commission on February 28th to get a final approval, right?
Yes.
Okay. So the only question here, it's not a question of time or anything else. The question is, what are the materials you're going to ask them to approve? And instead of approving the tiles you submitted before, the asphalt slate line tiles, you're asking to just approve asphalt shingles.
No, the asphalt slate line shingles. It's what we're asking. So there were 3 materials. It's the slate, the synthetic slate, and then the asphalt slate line shingles. And we're asking for the asphalt slate line shingles.
Okay, so this is a COA hearing for that, and the basis for that is, and what's the difference in terms of when you can start your installation for that versus the synthetic shingles?
Probably 2 weeks, probably 2 to 3 weeks after we have the final approval for the asphalt. The slate line would be about 2 to 3 months after, and the slate, would be at some point. It's the cost is the bigger issue there.
Okay, all right, but we're not worried about that because they'll approve the other one. We believe that all right. Okay, so now that we understand this is a COA hearing and we're being asked to approve these other materials. I didn't see in the package, were there samples of these materials that you had to show us or no?
I don't know. Well, I don't think the slate line was in that package. I do have.
And I want to say I'm every bit as concerned for your building as everybody else is. I don't want to see your building get damaged either. I just want to be very clear about what it is we're being asked to vote on this evening. Because it is now clear you're going to a COA hearing, which maybe it wasn't before.
Will we be able to see the samples during this meeting?
Yes, I could get the sample.
Get it, and how are you going to share it with us? Ms. Ty, since you were next, I didn't even stop you.
I know, it's a rhetorical question.
Ms. Wedderburn, if you're trying to say something, you're on mute.
Thank you for that reminder. I wanted to minimize the and never mind, it's not even important. What I wanted to do is I wanted to go back while we're waiting to see if we can get a copy of the sample shown to us, is to identify those persons that are participating by telephone so our records are complete. So with the caller whose number is 3472, which ends in 03, would you be so kind as to identify yourself? You can unmute with *6. Okay, the caller who is using the number 7185 ending in 73, would you be so kind to identify yourself?
Yeah, I'm Shirley Mondesir.
Ending in 73, Ms. Mondesir?
That's right.
Thank you very much. The caller with 3472 ending in 09, would you be so kind as to identify yourself? Okay, and the last is the caller with 4043 ending in 99. Okay, thank you. Mr. Josie, are you able to share a sample with us?
Madam Chair, if I may interrupt, this is Ethel Tias. We had a communication from the owner, Ms. Gasper, saying that LPC has accepted the last submission on the samples replacement for the shingles, as Mr. Josie has likely described, I'm sorry, right? And said that LPC is accepting the latest submission for the samples. So if we can proceed.
Nope, we've got the example. Thank you, Mr. Josie. So for everyone present's review.
Do we have an example of what the existing material looks like?
Again, appearances are deceiving. We need something more than a visual during this meeting. There is a report, I understand, from the owner, Ms. Gasper Markowitz, that LPC has accepted their latest submission. Can we go there?
Hold on one second. Is this in something that is in writing?
Email, they sent us the image of the GAF slate line shingle that we could use, and that was what I spoke to Ms. Tias. And then 2 days later, the same person said, "Oh, roof, so you have to present to the community board and to Landmarks at a hearing." But they sent over, they emailed me the product and the color that we can use that would match.
Okay, and you have that in an email that's identified the particular color and the material. Ms. Markowitz? Yes?
Madam Chair, this is Ethel Tias. I think we can close this out relatively expeditiously if we get the application number. I don't have it. I don't know if the board has it. If the applicant can provide that, we'll have a trail and we can go forward to the full board meeting.
Yes.
And from there to the LPC meeting. Thank you.
Well, thank you for
Thank
that,
you,
Ms.
Ms.
Tias.
Tias.
We do have a motion on the floor and a second. Thank you for that additional information. Ms. Young, would you restate your motion, please?
If I can remember, I recommend, I'm sorry. My motion was
Sorry.
based on the applicant's work over an extended period of time with LPC, based on the fact that her property is at risk and her health and safety of her family is at risk, and the fact that LPC appears to have approved her working with a particular product, that we support this applicant's request.
And Princess Ben James seconded the motion. Ms. James, you still second the motion?
It was actually me and Nix Lemler.
I'm sorry, Nick, that you seconded the motion. And I
Yes.
might add, Ms. Tias, would you consider making a friendly amendment to Ms. Young's amendment, pursuing that we have the documentation from LPC that would support this?
Yes, Madam Chair, I just ask that the approved application number be recited for the record.
Thank you. I see a quizzical face on Mr. Vacconi. Mr. Vacconi, do you have sufficient information to make a vote?
I do, but I'm going to abstain because I really don't fully understand what's going on here. I have not, I tried to do a permit search on the LPC site and wasn't able to find a permit. Now I'm if the LPC has approved something, are they approving at staff level and issuing a CNE? And if they are, then they don't need us to do anything at all if they're going to get a certificate of no effect. So I'm very confused
Sorry,
about what's
Madam Chair.
happening.
I'm sorry, Mr.
Wait,
Vacconi.
can you let Mr. Vacconi finish, please, Ms. Tyus?
I'm finished.
Cut to the chase and get the number.
I mean, is there? Yeah, I was just about to go on to Zola and look up a BBL for this property, but I was just responding to Ms. Wedderburn before doing that.
Okay, and hold on
Mr.
one second.
Vacconi, you're free to abstain if you're not
Wait,
sure
Ms.
about the
Mitchell, you
motion.
have to be recognized by me before you can speak so everybody can listen.
Sorry, apologies.
That is the disadvantage in working in a virtual world. So Ms. Mitchell, can you begin again so we can focus on what you have to say?
Apologies, Chairperson Wedderburn. Sorry for
No
that.
harm, no foul.
I was just saying, Gib and whoever else, if you're not sure or you don't understand the motion or you're not feeling comfortable with it, you're more than welcome to abstain. I think at this point that we're ready to move forward on this motion.
Thank you, Ms. Mitchell. Ms. Young, is your hand still up or you have something additional to add?
Well, I think Ms. Mitchell said what I was going to suggest, so I'm fine with that.
Okay, so I'm going to call this vote. Pierre Albert.
Yay.
Albert Appleton. Lisa Atkinson. Lisa Atkinson.
Yes.
Princess Ben James.
Yes.
Jacques Brunville.
Yes.
Robert Callahan.
Yes.
Nora Daniel.
Yes.
Hold on one second. Michael Francoeur.
Hey, all. Yeah, I'm a yes.
Najani Granville.
Yes.
Karen Gray.
Yes.
Jennifer Jordan.
Yes.
Zerzima Jordan.
Yes.
Peter Crashes.
Yes.
Nicole LeMay.
Yes.
Francis Langley.
Yes.
Sarah Lazora.
Yes.
Quasi Menza.
Yes.
Mimi Mitchell.
Yes.
Fiora Ortiz Joyner.
Yes.
Jack Robinson.
Yes.
Kim Robinson.
Yes.
Mark Thurton. Ethel Tyus.
Yes.
Gib Vacconi.
I have now found the CNE that was issued for this project, which I believe should have been a part of this presentation. So I'm going to abstain and I'll send the CNE to the board.
Please read it into the record.
We will have an amendment with the minutes. Yrsa Weatherspoon. Sharon Wedderburn, yes. Elaine Weinstein.
Yes.
Deborah Young.
Yes.
Mr. Vacconi, clarification, are you an abstention or no?
You know.
What is?
I'm an abstention.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have 24 in favor, yes, no no's, and 1 abstention. Motion carries.
Thank you.
So Ms. Markowitz, Mr. Josie, I have to say, as a chair and someone who's an advocate of the landmarking that we've had done in our district for preservation purposes, we feel your pain in the fact that, Ms. Markowitz's family is having some issues with maintaining their dwelling. My urging to you is that in addition to the minutes that we're providing to us, that you provide the information that Mr. Vacconi has noted, the CNE that you can find on Zola, as well as Ms. Markowitz, would you kindly provide that email coming from LPC so that we have a full record for the vote? Our meeting next week, because you will have to appear before the general board meeting, our meeting will be next week, Thursday, and it will be at, someone help me, please. Are we going to be at St. Joe's next week? Where's our location?
856 Pacific Street.
Thank you very much. We are at the Co-Cathedral of St. Joseph's. The meeting begins at 6:15 sharp. If you have any questions, please communicate with our board office, and we thank you for your time. And as community members, we feel for your frustration.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so now that we've had a thorough discussion here, our next item up for discussion is 120 Kingston Avenue. Is the applicant present for this?
Yes.
Okay, and who is this speaking? Who's the representative?
My name is Minosha Oya.
Okay, can you say that again for me?
Minosha Oya.
Mr. Oya, thank you so much. As someone who has a name that is oftenly mangled, I'm very sensitive to those things. Ms. Mitchell, is your hand still raised because you have a question, or can we begin the discussion of 120 Kingston Avenue?
Sorry, I just lowered my hand. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Oya, can you begin your presentation, please?
Yes, let me pull it up. Okay, can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Awesome. Okay, good evening, members of Community Board 8. Thank you for taking the time today to meet. As I stated, my name is Minosha Oya. I'm the project manager working at Kushner Studios Architecture and Design PC, and the architect of record is Mr. Adam Kushner, who is listening in as well. Today, I will be presenting on behalf of our clients our proposal for the exterior and interior renovation at 120 Kingston Avenue. Quick property introduction. The property at 120 Kingston Avenue is currently a 3-story mixed-use building located at the intersection of Bergen Street and Kingston Avenue. Bergen Street is predominantly a residential street, and Kingston Avenue, you'll find a majority of the properties as mixed-use buildings having a commercial space occupying the first floor. The property is designated under the zoning district R6. I'm gonna go ahead and zoom a little bit into this picture. So as you can see, the property is currently vacant and has been so for many years now. Understanding the current condition of the building, we had the opportunity to not only show our respect to the historical elements of the existing building, but also provide a level of revival that is also in tune with the context of the neighborhood and building elements that surround us. Slide. Looking at the tax photos from 1940, 1980, and 2018, we noticed that the identity of the corner lot has changed or evolved with the needs and style of its time. We wanted to continue that story with that proposed renovation. The existing Art Deco style of the commercial first floor at 120 Kingston Avenue is evident in its neon signage, streamlined storefront on both the Bergen and Kingston Street facades, ribbon windows, which you'll see is also along that Bergen Street facade. And these were all elements that we kind of took in and we are respecting and taking into consideration in our design. And I'll get into this in a little bit more detail as we move forward. So not only did we attempt to respect the building and its existing features, we also looked at what was being done at the properties along Kingston Avenue and Bergen Street as a source of inspiration to ensure that our design was in line with the neighborhood and the building elements that seem to be dominant and consistent throughout. These include, but are not limited to, the playful use of brick and masonry along the dense residential block of Bergen Street, and also evident on the properties directly next to ours along Kingston Avenue. The consistent use of curtain wall or storefront systems along the commercial strips along Kingston Avenue, and also the usage of signage and awning coverage along Kingston Avenue, which all play into our inspiration and which all plays into the inspiration and identity of this neighborhood. If we can look at this slide here, as you will see in these images, kind of these blown up images of the current site, the existing facade and building as a whole was left in a significant state of neglect, but the design elements that we could pick up, we tried to maintain architecturally. We did our best to take our cues from the streamline design and read of the facade. These elements include the horizontality created by the black and red colored glass banding that's occurring along the facades of both Bergen and Kingston Street. The cutout aluminum projection sign with neon housing that read Kingston Lounge attached to aluminum sign band, and also the ribbon windows, which I've mentioned previously, which again emphasize the horizontality that comes into play with the existing facade. I think we'll get back to these points when we look at our proposed design. Also, something to note, the existing signage is currently mostly not there anymore. It was in a significant level of damaged state. So there is a limit to what we can provide in terms of the existing signage that was once there prior. So moving on to this slide here, we just have our proposed floor plans of the first floor and cellar plan, but kind of looking at the first floor right now. Let me just zoom in so you guys can see that a little bit clearer. So the challenge is that our first floor is no longer maintaining the commercial use that existed before, but rather we're converting the first floor to have a residential use only. This change of use naturally omits some of the existing building elements which may have worked better as a commercial space, such as the corner entrance that maybe it's better if I go back to some of these pictures here. So as I was saying, some of these existing building elements which may have worked better as a commercial space, such as the corner entrance and the ribbon windows location and sizes. The reality is that there's elements at the exterior that works better when a commercial space, but not necessarily when the space becomes a residential use. For example, the need for operable windows for light and air, requirements for the habitable spaces. And with that said, we're still trying to maintain as much architectural elements and concepts that existed within reason. For example, if I could zoom in again on this plan, where that corner entrance was once cut back, where it was previously cut back and the space was entered at the corner, we're implementing a curtain wall design using brick, steel, and aluminum to maintain the feeling of an open corner, but also provide the basic needs of privacy and operability, which caters to the new residential use of the space. Something else to note, if you look at here, but if you look at image 2, you'll see that there was an entry to the residential units above that was along Bergen Street, which is fitting, given that the Bergen Street facade is primarily a residential strip. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to maintain that residential entrance as shown here, and create a private entrance for the first floor tenants, and use that as a benchmark to highlight the shift or the transition from that commercial first floor, predominant commercial first floor along Kingston Avenue to the predominant residential strip of Bergen Street. which I'll get into a little bit when we look at our facade.
Sorry, this is Sarah Lazar, committee member. I was wondering if the person who has a phone number that starts with 347 and ends in 03, if you could mute yourself. We're hearing a lot of background noise and it's making it hard to concentrate on the presentation. Sorry.
Okay, sorry. So through our strategic use of brick, we try to achieve the same feeling of horizontality that was evident in the existing facade through the use of the ribbon windows and colored banding throughout. If you look closely, we're creating bands of single course brick. Let me zoom a little closer here. So we have bands of single course brick, which you can see spans the entire facade of both Bergen and Bergen Street and Kingston Avenue. And you know, the single course brick, which would slightly be raised, will also provide some more definition as it spans the entire facade and face of both of these streets, similar to what the glass bands were achieving with its horizontality and read from facade from left to right. The windows also play into this horizontal system that we're creating. You'll also notice that the window system on the left and right side differ as we transition from this intersection from commercial dominant to residential dominant use. To the right of the entry door on Bergen Street, you'll see we're proposing a window style, excuse me, and system that is more in tune with the traditional window system and types seen along the street. These windows are also fall in line with the existing windows above at the second and third floor, and this further tries to tie in the building and concept as a whole to read as one cohesive design. Let's see here. Elements shown such as the standing seam metal awning that terminates over Bergen Street. The cutout, sorry. So yes, the standing metal seam metal awning that terminates at the Bergen Street entry, along with the aluminum cutout letters for signage along both the Bergen Street and Kingston Street facades, and the long horizontality of our windows, all derived from the context in which the neighborhood provides and our interpretation of what remains in terms of architectural elements of the existing building.
Question, Madam Chair. Madam Chair?
Yes, Ethel.
Yes, there is a very key issue with the signage.
Okay, so let's let the applicant finish with the presentation and we can get into all of that. Thank you.
I just wanted to mention that this is a key point on that frontage.
Thank you
signage.
very much. Please let him finish his presentation.
Sorry. So on the same slide, you'll see some of the colors and material selections that we're using along for our building's proposal. We are using white, 14-inch Helvetica new letters, 3D injection molded plastic in white. Our awnings and facade steel spec are also provided, along with the facade brick spec and stucco spec, which will be located on our bulkhead, which I'll get into as well a little bit. Again, some of those points I touched upon, the horizontality of the windows, the usage of awning and coverage and signage are all kind of deriving from the neighborhood and context of the existing building that remain that's there now. This slide is to show some of our typical details for some of the for our windows and doors. Our typical door detail can be shown here, where we call out the materiality at our plan for that information. You can take a look at that. So we're proposing a wood door that would be painted to match the metal colors of the steel that we are also proposing for the sign band above. Our windows, we have a couple of different operable types. We have a sliding window, which I had mentioned is on the closer to the end of the Bergen Street side. And then we have some hopper windows, which allows for that curtain wall design to have that level of operability and control for light and air needs. These are some basic sections looking at the assembly of our systems. We're thinking of aluminum clad for all of the molding, which is in line with what was previously there. So looking at this slide, when converting from commercial to residential, one of the new building elements that we provided is a new entry gate to the rear yard space, which was previously not part of the commercial space. As we extended our building facade further down Bergen Street, we wanted to make sure the design was in tune with the neighborhood, with the neighboring context. As you can see in image 3 and image 2, a lot of the properties along Bergen Street have some kind of an entry gate or entry fence. We wanted to integrate this consistency that we observed into our design to further tie this property into the neighborhood. The design itself continues that horizontality that I've mentioned earlier by running that single course brick all the way through to the end of our property. And the single course brick essentially makes up the frame of this new proposed gate. For the purposes of protection and privacy needed with the new residential use, we're proposing a new metal mesh along the openings, which would be welded to the back of the proposed metal gate as seen in this detail here. Forward. So here are some close-up shots of the shots and details of the Bergen Street and Kingston Street facades. Please notice the brick and masonry usage along the dense residential block of Bergen Street, the consistent use of curtain wall and storefront systems along the commercial strip that bends and turns and transitions as we work our way down the Bergen Street facade, and the usage again of signage and awnings that can be found evident along the Kingston Street, Kingston Avenue strip. Here again, some of those elements that we kind of took in and kind of paid homage to, the horizontality that read by these black and red strips, as well as again trying to preserve as much of the structural integrity for the usage for signage to give additional identity to our proposal. This slide is to show that our proposed bulkhead will not be visible from any public thoroughfare. And you could see a mock-up of a portion of our bulkhead. The issue was that our existing bulkhead actually overlaps a little bit with the current bulkhead, which is why only this portion could be built. But essentially, as you can see in these diagrams here, no matter if you're standing on Kingston Ave or directly across the street from our property, you should not be able to see our bulkhead, as well as if you're on Bergen Street or the Bergen Street along our property or across the street, you should not be able to see our proposed bulkhead as well. And then we also have supporting images for that case in these images here. The next one. This sheet is just showing some of the typical details that you can find throughout our proposal. We have some typical wall details here, some exterior, typical exterior stud wall details you can find here, typical waterproofing details, saddle details, stair details. again, all to code and all present in our proposal. I can move on. So this is the last slide, and I'm going to take my time with this one. And this is kind of the overarching element of our design. So you can see here in this section detail of our typical brick and curtain wall storefront design. I think there's a couple things that we'd like to note and mention, as I mentioned throughout the presentation. So one is obviously our playful use of brick coursing to create the horizontality that existed in the original design, and it's extending along the complete facade of both Kingston Avenue and Bergen Street. The revamp of the aluminum cut signage as an homage to the Kingston Lounge sign that gave the building its identity, but fitting with the new residential use. The window systems that come into play with the horizontal language of that our facade is creating. Let's just zoom out a little bit more here. Again, going back to the relationship to the neighboring context, we've also proposed our fixed metal awning, which feels relevant with the time and also respects the elements that we see throughout the neighborhood. And then the color selections are also are deriving from properties that we find are using around us, and you can see that we try to fall under that same color palette used in those buildings directly neighboring us or across from us. And then also the consistent brick base pays respect to the existing building facade, and with our residential use proposed, we also want to pay respect to the existing brick above by matching close in color and style as possible to tie in the entire building as one cohesive 3-story building. And again, I just want to thank everyone for the time on this matter. We're eager to work with the community, LPC, CHANA, and the Bergen Kingston Block Association to produce a building that is beautiful, respectful, and fitting for the neighborhood. If anyone has any questions or comments regarding our proposal, please let me know.
Mr. Vacconi, I see that you've already raised your hand.
Yeah, I guess I'll kick it off. So I have a couple questions. The first one is, this is the Kingston Lounge. We heard an application many years ago, maybe about 5 or 6 years ago, to restore the commercial use on the first floor. Actually, basically restore something that looked like the Kingston Lounge. It was a very interesting proposal, quite thoughtful. A lot of work went into it on the part of the applicant team. Any insight as to what happened to that proposal and why that never came to pass?
So I think the basic answer is new ownership. The new ownership is looking to no longer keep that space a commercial space, and is looking to create a 3-story residential building, and is looking to achieve that.
Okay, so why is it that why do you believe putting a residential space on the first floor of a building on a commercial strip with a style that's not recognizable as historic to that building is appropriate?
Well, if you could see the buildings directly next to us on Kingston, you could see that they're 3-story residential buildings, and they're full brick, top to bottom, and they're also kind of playing again with the use of brick, creating that horizontality through the use of color, through the use of material, and we're trying to pick up those design languages with our proposal.
I mean, I see that, but your design doesn't appear historic in any way at all. Is that, I mean, is there, would you agree, is there something that we're missing?
No, I mean, I think for sure we're creating we're creating something something new, but also fitting. Again, taking in all of the context that we could. We're looking at some of the tax photos and seeing what was previously there and noticing how fitting kind of it was and how the design has changed throughout and essentially with all of the contextual information that we had, we're using our architectural interpretation to provide something that is fitting and is paying homage to the historical elements that existed before.
Do you have anything like a tax photo that shows a residential condition on at the first floor?
Not in my presentation.
No.
Let's be orderly, guys. I've got quite the list of comments.
Okay, so we don't we don't have a tax photo to refer to that shows a residential condition at the first floor. So we don't know what that looked like when it was created. We don't have like a plans or anything else that would tell us what the residential condition looked like.
You're saying in the past?
Yes.
No, not current.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vacconi. So I'm just going to, in the order with which I was able to recognize the raised hands, here are the following speakers in their order: Kelly Carroll, Ethel Tyus, Sarah Lazur, Desmond Atkins, Marcia Nicole, Jack or Nix, and Ethel Tyus. So Ms. Kelly Carroll, please.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. My name is Kelly Carroll. I'm a preservationist professionally. I also teach a historic preservation class at NYU, and I'm also the executive director of the Atlantic Avenue BID, although I'm in the capacity of representing myself and as a friend of the Crown Heights North Association tonight. I worked on this proposal alongside with China back in 2015 when the proposal that Gib mentioned was brought to the table. At that time, there was still enough of an intact nature on this building that it wasn't a heavy lift to do its restoration. And the applicant agreed to, actually the neon housing itself was in such good condition that retrofitting that housing with a different type of light was decided and voted on by the Landmarks Commission. I don't know what happened to this building between 2018 and now, to where the facade has been completely defaced. This is a wound in the community that needs to be healed. Typically, when architects and designers step in and make an intervention to a historic building in a historic district that they have to be imaginative about, it's because there's no evidence of what was ever there, okay? That is not the case here. There is sufficient documentation that was in real life until a few years ago. And also, there's not a tax photo that's gonna show the Kingston Lounge, because the facade the facade that's destroyed now was there from 1944, and the tax photos were taken in 1940, so you just missed it. So that facade survived intact from 1944 to 2018, and basically still now, okay? So we're over 3/4 of a century. The Kingston Lounge is a cultural landmark. This is not just a normal landmark building in the district. It's also an African-American cultural landmark. We've lost the Lenox Lounge in Harlem. I find this proposal insensitive, especially being brought to the table during Black History Month, where we're proposing to quite literally erase Black history. I think that a compromise could be made to salvage what's there. Vitrolite glass is structural, okay? Put it back, keep the name. Do you know how many of these white kids getting off the subway are gonna love walking to the Kingston Lounge that's hugely lit up and bright and a call home? The Helvetica is totally inappropriate. It belongs in the subway, not on this landmark. I'm almost done. Also, just as a nod to the community, this proposal should have been a rendering too. There's a lot of people in this meeting that can't read architectural drawings because they don't do this for a living, and I just think going forward, everything should be rendered so people know exactly what they're looking at. I'm going to stop.
Thank you, Ms. Kelly. Ms. Tyus?
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I may defer to Mr. Atkins, who was a near neighbor to the project, and then I can go. Is that okay with you?
Surely, we'll reverse order. Actually, Mr. Atkins is a couple of people below you. So the next person is Ms. Lazar. Sarah?
If you wanted to move Mr. Atkins up, I'm fine with that too.
Okay. Mr. Atkins? Desmond? Desmond, I can't hear you.
Madam Chair, in Mr. Atkins' absence, I will proceed with my comments. I have to ask Mr. Oye.
Wait, hold on. Desmond, is that you? Okay, Desmond, you need. Okay, say more than yes so we know that you're really back. Yes, we can. Go ahead, Desmond. Desmond, I'm so sorry. I'm going to rescind that and say we cannot hear you.
Madam Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to let Mr. Atkins know that it seems like he has joined the meeting twice, and perhaps that's why he's having audio difficulties.
Ah. Ms. Atkins, can you log out and log back in, please? You're here twice. You're redundant.
No, I'm not redundant.
Okay, now you are. Okay, now we can hear you.
Very good. So I would like to.
Desmond, I'm so sorry about giving you mixed signals. We can't hear you. Log out and log back in, and then we'll listen to Ms. Tyus. Okay? When you come back on, we'll call on you immediately. Thank you. Ms. Tyus?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to alert our users that Mr. Oye is a paid spokesperson for this misstatement of, what did he call it? With the drawing from the neighborhood. Okay, the Kingston Lounge frontage was unique for the neighborhood. If you look at the 2007 designation report for this first phase of the Crown Heights North Historic District, they went through great lengths, they meaning LPC, to describe the details of this frontage, the streamlining, like a old restaurant, and to have it completely destroyed for the sake of making it the neighborhood look. The Kingston Lounge set the neighborhood look, and I'm sure Mr. Atkins will come behind me and talk about how this group of buildings, because it was part of a group, and this corner building was a stellar insert into that construct. So we are being misled with language that says it's deriving from the neighborhood. It is setting the meter and message and rhythm for the neighborhood. Culturally, it was, as Crown Heights North wrote in its letter, it was a meeting place for really great jazz to come there. And you could hear great jazz music. Now it's going to be a cohabitation, which if the owner, the new owner, would take a good look at what is going to be attractive to his potential tenants, then he would realize that the replacing the now destroyed signage, restoring the previous signage with its colors and its wonderful presentation, as Ms. Kelly described earlier, would be a dramatic magnet to the young people who want to live in a cohabitation where breakfast is paid for, and you only have to share your bathroom with two other strangers. So I would hope that Mr. Oye would look to his own personal heritage and look at what's happening here in central Brooklyn to save this unique sense of place in the Crown Heights North Historic District and restore the prior storefront facade with its colors and its unique design, and as they promised at prior LPC hearings. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tyus. Mr. Atkins has not logged back on, therefore I would call upon Ms. Lazar.
Yeah, thank you. I also was taken aback by the idea.
Okay, I'm back. I'm on my cell phone now.
Go ahead, Mr.
Okay.
Atkins, sorry.
Go ahead, Mr. Atkins.
Thank you. So after great difficulty, this is the thing. Ms. Carroll and Ms. Tyus have basically given the gist of this. As per instructions, I forwarded my disagreements with the presentation. I agree with the fact that there was no final mock-up of the way that they're proposing the final building should look. As I stated in the letter that I sent to LPC and to the architect, the building, well, first of all, I didn't say this. The signage was taken down about 2 or 3 years ago. It just came in, they just came and took it down one day. The building was originally scheduled to be completed in June of 2015. The owner, who owns a building diagonally across the street, made sure that building was pristine and then soiled the neighborhood by dumping his business's trash in front of the Kingston Lounge.
Mr. Atkins, please let's focus on the architectural aspect.
I'm going to keep it in place to the facade. In my letter to them, I made the point that if you look at the buildings on Kingston Avenue, you can see that all of the brickwork follows in a line. All of the windows and the surrounding appointings are all uniform. They're uniform on the second and third floor of 120 Kingston Avenue. And the brickwork, the small bricks which are favored in buildings created in that era, were all along the base level of Bergen Street. For the information about whether there was residential living on the ground level, there was none. I lived at 122 Kingston Avenue from 1950, the end of 1950. So by the age of 5, I was aware of what the neighboring building looked like. It was a lounge and a jazz club. It was internationally known. And there were people who lived on the upper floors. Okay? But as far as anything being a presentation that shows what's going on, Mr. Oya, by repeating over and over, he's trying to assuage the points that I made in the statement that I sent out. The entire front of that building has been allowed to be damaged by demolition by neglect. This was before, during, and after they took down the signage. There's still some Art Deco glass still sitting there, but behind the green partition, you can't see what kind of brickwork is left there. That there are holes in the building behind the original facade and the supporting brick structure that was there. And there has been tremendous water damage because they never took care of the roof, and they basically took 2 PVC pipes and had water, allowing water to fall 30 feet down onto the siding, which caused more demolition of the concrete and stonage there. On the call is the property owners from 1298 Bergen, who came before the community board and LPC to have their brownstone extended, only to have tremendous water damage done. So that there has been a history of neglect by the property owner. He had originally planned to have that 120 Kingston turn into a parking garage to support the restaurant across the street.
Mr. Atkins, I might remind you that we are focused on the architectural elements and the LPC elements related to the building, not other uses. Not
Okay, well,
for us.
okay. One of the other things Mr. Oya brought out was the extension of the building. There's a space there between 1298 and the lot 1300 to 1308 Bergen Street, which they're going to make a stairwell going into the cellar. My question is how are they going to do that? He said, gave in glowing terms that there was going to be in the context of the community. Ms. Kelly pointed out that they've already defined that and that their drawings do not really come anywhere close to the original facade and the dignity that the building portrays. I just wanted to bring that up.
Thank you, Mr. Oya. That's a specific question. Can you answer that, please?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Desmond referred to the
At the western end of the building, you have drawings that say that you're going to extend the stairwell going from street level down into the basement. And I'm not sure what this is. Building already originally a fire escapes on the western end and on the northern. So I'm curious about what you're going to do as far as and the signage that you're, as Ms. Kelly said, the signage that you're putting up there is nowhere in shape or form of context of what was happening with the building. The building around the corner, directly adjacent to you, 122, has more of a flavor.
Did you specify what you had a question of so Mr. Oya can respond to it specifically?
The use of the end of their lot at the western end of the building and the stairwell that's going down, it's proposed to go down into the cellar.
Yes.
And the way that that is going to be cordoned off or closed off, and the materials and the usage of that area, because it's a large lot, and right now it has basically trash in there.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Atkins. Mr. Oya?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to understand all of the information.
I'll help you.
But essentially, so the stair that we're showing at the rear yard, which will be catered to the residential use, is a stair that would be inset, obviously dug out, and it would. And
can you speak a little louder, please?
Oh, is this better? Hello?
Go ahead.
Okay, so if you see here on our cellar plan, obviously there's going to be a portion of our rear yard that would need to be excavated to create the stair that would then lead into the cellar space, and then the termination of that stair as you leave the cellar and work your way up will be on grade with the current rear yard that's there present. Does that answer your question? And then going back again, sorry, maybe you wanted to know a little bit more about this, but again, our play of our use of the horizontality of the single course brick spans all the way across to now what we're calling the facade extension, and this is to propose our gated entry into our rear yard to provide access to that space directly from Bergen Street, and again. Fence work is pretty evident along Bergen Street, so we felt like it wasn't something that was not appropriate to do. And then again, for additional need for privacy, we're proposing a mesh coverage that would be welded to the back side of our gate.
So I have two questions.
Okay.
I have two questions. You've stressed multiple times the linearity of the brick that you're going to place along the ground level facade. Back at the original proposition in 2015, and again today, it's evident that all of those buildings used a identical type of brick to create context for the buildings. And will you be getting the same size brick and color brick and type of brick that is already existing on the second and third floor and existing on the front face on 120 Kingston Avenue? That's the east facing side. and all the other buildings, 122 through 128 Kingston Avenue. They all have the same type of brick with the same pointing. Will you be providing, will the materials being used be those? The second question has to do with the choice of a mesh to seal off the last lot that separates your property from the property adjoining 1298 Bergen Street. And the property owner is here, so I'm going to defer to those questions to when they speak.
Okay, so yes, so the in terms of the brick, we were going with a standard size brick veneer.
Standard size? What is standard size, sir?
3 by 8, 3 inches by 8 inches.
Is that the same size that's already existing?
I don't believe so, but again,
okay, so now, if the people had done their homework, they would have looked at the original notes in the initial LPC hearing, and seen that that was a point of contention.
Thank you.
And that was going back to 2015. And as been stated by Ms. Carroll and by Ms. Tice, the building has been moribund, and so there was enough time to attempt to do research, to try to find other buildings in the city that were created in the same period that were demolished, recover those bricks, or find a foundry or that's creating bricks of that size and type.
Thank you,
But
Mr.
that hasn't
Atkins.
been-
Would we be at this juncture, because I'm sure you have much more to say, would we be able to move on to another meeting participant?
Sure.
Okay, Marsha Nicole?
Thank you.
Yes, good evening. I'm Luckner. I am related to Marcia. We are a family living at 1298 Bergen, and have resided there since 2003. We are encouraged to see plans being made.
I'm sorry, sir. I'm hearing an echo. Do you have another device that's attached to this meeting?
I do not. Let me make sure there isn't. It may have been someone else. Has the echo gone away?
I think you logged in twice, Luckner.
Okay. Do you still hear an echo?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Please
Thank you very
proceed.
much. Thank you. We've lived at 1298 for the past 20 years, and you certainly have seen the transformation of the building to the current poor state that it's in. And while we are encouraged to see renovations being planned, we still feel that the proposal at this point still does not reflect the historical use of the building, and are certainly concerned about the proposal for a mesh opening or a mesh enclosure of that adjoining yard space. I would also ask about the intended use of the first floor. Understandably, it may not be an architectural issue at this point, but with the transition to a cohabitation unit that seems to have 5 bedrooms plus we're counting 2 kitchens and so on. It's not clear to us exactly what the purpose of that structure is, and how it'll affect the residential property or the residential quality of single or dual family homes along Bergen. We have nothing like this on the block, so this is certainly a very significant departure from what we've seen throughout the Bergen and throughout the Kingston block as well.
So, Mr. Oyer, the specific question is, what is the use of the first floor? And so if this is not a use that we've seen before, it's a significant departure? Please explain that within the context of a historic district.
It's just it's a residential unit. with.
So it's going to be a full residential unit.
Correct.
So it's not like it's let's say 2 Class A apartments. I see 5 bedrooms plus 2 kitchens. 4 refrigerators. That's not in line with anything I know of. That's on Kingston or on Bergen for that matter.
There'll be 3 separate units in this building, 1 on each floor.
Not the first unit. The first unit is not a regular apartment as I see it on the plan right now. There are 5 bedrooms there. There are 2 kitchens. 5 bedrooms. 4 refrigerators. I'm looking at the plan right now on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
This is certainly not what your ground level apartments along Bergen Street look like.
Madam Chair, Ethel Tias here, if I may, to shorten the discussion. The owner has a website, Cohab, Invest, etc. If you look there and look at their frequently asked questions, you'll get an idea of what they're planning. Breakfast, you'll share your bathroom with at least 3 other strangers. You'll get breakfast and change of linens and cleaning.
Thank you, Ms. Tias. Thank you.
Sorry, may I just jump in? It looks
Wait,
like.
hold on. I am the referee. Ms.
just trying to
Tias, I allowed
shorten
the intrusion.
Thank
Please
you,
repeat
and I
the
apologize.
website, and then we are going to go in the order with which hands are raised. Thank you. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So the next person is Jack Robinson or Nix. I'm not sure who has their hand up.
It's kind of both of us because it looks like either like a proposal for an Airbnb or another hostel, like youth hostel, like.
Exactly.
Sorry.
It solves no housing needs whatsoever.
I'm sorry, who's speaking now?
That's
Jack
Jack.
Robinson and Nix.
Okay, thank you.
It solves no housing needs whatsoever. It's an Airbnb that's set up there to make money. It doesn't do anything for the neighborhood. It doesn't do anything for people that need houses.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Tias, you've spoken and spoken again. Is this a time which you would like to speak again?
Madam Chair, I appreciate your allowing me to speak out of turn. I just want to say to my neighbors that Cohab, Invest, I forgot the rest of the internet address, but please go there in advance of our meetings going forward and take a look at who's coming in and what they plan to do. This is a standard ops for certain areas of Brooklyn and in Manhattan. Cohab Invest, the owner for whom Mr. Oye is speaking, has a plan. And if you look at their frequently asked questions, you will see what they're planning to do and the rents they're planning to charge and the services they're planning to offer for these cohabitation apartments on all 3 floors of this building. They will generate a lot of trash and they need to have private carding service. If
All
we're
right,
going-
thank you, Ms. Tias.
Madam Chair, they will need private carding services. Is not part of our purview for landmarking.
Thank
but
you. That's exactly my point. So let's move on to someone else who has not had an opportunity to speak. Ms. Holder.
Excellent.
Good evening. I am a lifelong resident of Bergen Street. I'm at 1278. I had a brief stint away for college and law school, but I'm very familiar with the property. I grew up with my grandparents who bought their house in the 70s talking about it. And my concern is the integrity of the building. I've watched it deteriorate. And also I am renovating my house at this time. And I have been, charged with keeping the integrity of the color of my brick in the back. I tried to change the hue, and I was told by the committee that I was not allowed to do that. And as someone who is just a residential owner and a primary resident, I think that the burden that is placed on us to keep the structural integrity and aesthetic and purpose of the landmark should be held to a higher standard for a commercial owner who intends to only get profit from the building. And I echo the thoughts of Kelly, Ms. Tyus, and Mr. Atkins. And I just wanted to add that 2 cents. I think they should be held to that standard and possibly higher.
Thank you so much for your comments, Ms. Holder. Ms. Fiora Ortiz Joyner, please.
Actually, I think that Ms. Lazar has had her hand raised for quite some time.
No, ma'am. I did catch that. She has spoken. Ms.
Okay.
Ortiz Joyner?
No, she
didn't
hasn't.
actually
She
get
actually
the
deferred her
chance to
time to Mr. Atkins, if I recall.
Oh, thank you so much. You are correct. Ms. Lazar?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I was also taken aback to see that this was, you know, a truly historic business and truly historic edifice that was being essentially done away with in order to make room for, you know, a glorified hotel. I mean, also writing the word the Cohabs on the side of it in Helvetica is just like advertising that it's going to be filled with transient people who don't give a crap about the neighborhood. I mean, just as a stylistic choice, I just think forgive me, it's a dumb choice to call it the Cohabs and to write that on this side of the building. But yeah, I mean, like Jack Robinson said, this isn't being built in order to you know, make room for people who intend to have any sort of longevity in the neighborhood. You know, and when we think about why we have historic districting in the first place, you know, it's to preserve the heritage of a place, to preserve the history of a place, and this would essentially be getting rid of what's historical in order to, you know, to serve a profit-making purpose that is for people who don't intend to contribute to any continuing history of the place. Yeah, I'm just
Just
you
a
know,
quick point.
everybody else has said it
removed,
great. I'm going to move on.
The Cohabs from the awning, from the signage. That was a recent development, and we did resubmit our presentation to show that change. Not that, just as a note.
Sorry, can't understand what he's saying.
I was saying that the Cohabs is no longer going to be present as on the signage. That's been removed, and that's been a development that's recently happened, and a new presentation was submitted to reflect that.
Thank you. Would have been nice to have this for this meeting. Ms. Ortiz Joyner, thank you for keeping order within the line. And you would have to say?
Well, thank you for recognizing me. First, I just want to thank Ms. Carroll for continuously sharing her knowledge and working with China with the applications. Thank you. Secondly, I'm going to echo some of the sentiments of my fellow committee members. I find that it is appalling that history is just being erased without any type of accountability. In a time that we have a governor in a state that is essentially eradicating Black history from being taught in school and essentially equating it to zombie classes. I'm just incensed at the fact that so much history is just being erased in our own communities, our cultural history just being eradicated, and we've essentially are raising our voices, and these developers and owners care nothing about the neighborhood because they're not part of the neighborhood. And to have these transient rooms, basically dormitories in our communities, I'm just appalled, and I'm sorry, Mr. Oya, that you wouldn't recognize and read the room to know how angry we are. As Mr. Atkins has a right to be angrier because he lives on that block. We continuously have to have these developers, these representatives continuously come to our meetings and basically tell us what's good for us. No, we know what's good for us, and this is not it. We need people to live in this neighborhood that will be part of the community board, that will be part of our block associations, and people who will live in these rooms will not be. So I will be voting no. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ortiz Joyner. I just want to remind everyone that's participating in this meeting that this meeting is going to be available on YouTube and it's also being live streamed. So, to be cautious in giving personally identifiable information about residents and such. We all want to be safe here. So with that said,
Thank you, Madam Chair. I apologize for that. I'm just
no,
very passionate.
no. I am not saying anything about passion because this is why we are giving our time very freely about matters that come before the community. Our presence shows what our passion is.
Madam Chair, Ethel Tyus here. May I ask, I was late to the meeting. Were the letters from the Crown Heights North Associations shared with the committee members?
It is in the Dropbox.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm going to go. It's Jack and Nix, Mimi, and then Gail Muhammad. Jack and or Nix.
Sorry, everything we had has been addressed.
Thank you. Mimi?
Hi, good evening. So first things first, can we stop the screen share? That would be really great. I think that we've seen enough. And second, I think that thank you. I think the community I think that the board and the community has definitely spoken, and I don't see why we need to discuss this any further. I'm ready to call for a vote, and I'd like to make a motion to deny this application.
Thank you, Mimi, for that. We have other raised hands, so we are going to hold off until Ms. Mohammed speaks, and then I will ask for a second of the motion. Ms. Mohammed?
Yes, Madam Chair. My hand was not up. I was clapping.
Okay.
All of the speakers and agreeing with everyone that spoke before me.
Okay. I see Mr. Atkins' hand is up. Mr. Atkins, do you have something to say at this juncture?
Yes, I do. I just want to compile some of the thoughts that have been brought out here. When the building was first proposed, it was going to honor the original Kingston Lounge, and it was going to have jazz music. Then it came up at a board meeting, and they voted out and said that the owner could do whatever they wanted to do. The building has remained fallow, while the same business group owns another building across the street who made that corner, that would be the northeast corner of the intersection of Kingston and Bergen, pristine. By what means, I don't know. They got a bus stop moved and lengthened, and they got a bus stop moved. And part of their business method was to take their trash and place it on the southwest corner, which is 120 Kingston. That has caused a vermin explosion all through North Crown Heights.
Thank you, Mr. Atkins. I just want to remind you that this is in relation not to environmental issues, but to a building and landmarking.
And I understand that, and that's why I'm curious, as it was pointed out, that this is basically a hostile or a transient renting situation for straight economic advancement of the owner. And they've already proven to not care about anyone else but themselves.
Thank you for making yourself clear.
This building will generate a tremendous amount of waste, and I don't see anything in the plans from Mr. Oya or anyone else. They've already made revisions about how they intend to take care of that. This is a key point, and it has to do, which this is not landmarking, but it has to do, because this is a community board meeting. It has to do with the health and safety
meeting
of the entire community. And if the building is where people live and how we progress as a community, it's very important that we maintain the integrity on every possible front. That's why we have multiple committees. When the owner came forward for the other property, they made it very clear that they only cared about getting approval from city agencies and politicians and everyone else be darned. I see the same scenario happening now, and it's been pointed out that this is, for all intent and purpose, a hostel for transient dorm sharing. There are no roots being put down here. And to echo the other part, if they're making a presentation, why weren't there mock-ups? And if there are other styles, why weren't there multiple mock-ups showing variations in the style so we could compare? This is their method of doing business, and they're attempting to bamboozle the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Atkins. Ms. Tias, did your hand go up?
Yes, ma'am. I just want to make it clear for the committee that we don't spend our time on use going forward.
I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Okay, this is permitted. They're not enlarging the building. So please look at the building code for these kinds of changes. They are not changing the zoning or enlarging the building.
Thank you, Ms. Tias. Okay, Ms. Mitchell, you indicated before that you were interested. Wait, before I even go there. Is there anyone else who has not spoken who would like to add to the conversation at this time? Okay, hearing none. Ms. Mitchell, you indicated that you had an interest in it, moving a motion forward. Would you like to state that?
Yes, I'd like to motion that we deny this application.
And I second.
Who's the second?
Deb Young.
Thank you, Ms. Thank you, Ms. Young. Thank you, Ms. Mitchell. I will call the roll. Pierre Albert.
So just to be certain, if we're denying the application, do we say yay or nay?
You are supporting the motion, which is a yay.
Okay, yay.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I would ask for a friendly amendment that in order to keep the building from going further into neglect, that we agree to approve the proposal if they restore the ground floor to what LPC recommended and to what the prior owner, Branover, suggested that he would promise that he would do to LPC when he made his presentation, to restore the prior streamlined facade for the ground floor. Thank you.
Ms. Tias, given that I started to call a roll, it is inappropriate, but I will allow this at this time if it is acceptable to Ms. Mitchell.
It's not, only because we haven't dealt with what would happen with the upper floors, and would they still be able to do their cohabbing plan? Like, you know what I mean? So just to have the bottom floor restored would be one great thing, but then what's with the other floors? We still have that to deal with. So no, unfortunately, I can't accept that amendment.
Okay, in the discussion, Ms. Tias referenced that we cannot, it is not changing the structure of the building. It is an allowed use.
I understand that, but I can't support it.
Okay, so the motion now stands. Can you restate that, Ms. Mitchell?
I motion to deny the application, the applicant's application.
Okay, and the second came from Ms. Young?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to begin with the vote again. Mr. Albert.
Yes.
Albert Appleton. Lisa Atkinson. Princess Ben James.
Yeah, yes.
Jacques Brunville.
Yes.
Robert Callahan.
Yes.
Nora Daniel. Nora Daniel. Michael Francoeur.
I'm a yes.
Najani Granville.
Yes.
Karen Gray. Karen Gray. Jennifer Jordan.
Yes.
Zerzima Jordan.
Yes.
Peter Crashes,
Yes.
Nicole LeMay, Francis Langley,
Yes.
Sarah Lazor,
Yes.
Quasi Mensa, Quasi
Yes.
Mensa,
Yes.
Mimi Mitchell,
Yes.
Fior Ortiz Joyner,
An emphatic yes.
Jack Robinson,
Yes.
Kim Robinson,
Yes.
Mark Thurton, Ethel Tyus,
Yes.
Gib Vaconi,
Yes.
Sharon Wedderburn, yes. Elaine Weinstein,
Yes.
Deborah Young.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, motion carries 23 in favor, 0 no's, no abstentions. Thank you guys for your time. I'd also like you to know that when we write this up, so to speak, for presentation for the motion to the general body, we will also make note of that there are concerns about the residents that is proposed, and also make note that it's not a change of use, because you just can't say no. You have to say why you're saying no. Okay. So now that we've completed this matter, is there any old business?
Madam Chair, I would be careful with the language. There is a change of use for the ground floor.
Thank you, Ms. Tice. And before we complete this, we will consult with you and Ms. Carroll.
Thank you.
Old business? Ms. George is raising her hand, or Ms. Neal?
That's Miss Neal. I would like to just harp on something that Ms. Tyus is saying. It's great that the committee is saying no to the project that's presented, but I believe we would be remiss and miss a perfect opportunity to help guide LPC in what we would like to see. So if one of the causes of contention was around that first floor usage and maintaining the alignment of the historic district of the building as it was versus how we would like it to be, maybe the committee should reconsider that and maybe just have a second vote on something else.
Good point. Good point. Ms. Tias, would you be able to compose a motion?
Well, we already have a motion that's been voted on the floor. Our next opportunity is the full board.
Okay. Mr. Callahan, I saw a raised hand.
I think that this is already in motion, but it sounds like the appropriate measure would be for us to propose an amendment to the motion at the full board meeting.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have discussed this, Mr. Oya and Mr. Kushner. I hope that you've heard us and that you'll be able to represent our concerns to the applicant. As I've said before, the meeting before the full board will occur next Thursday at the Co-Cathedral of St. Joseph, located on Pacific Street. If you have any questions as to the location of the meeting or the logistics, please contact the board office.
Will do. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you. Okay. So the hour is 8:24. We've been at this for more than 2 hours. So, old business.
Old business, Madam Chair, I would ask that when we get applications in for LPC review, that we get from the applicant whatever record numbers they have received from LPC, so we can track that more easily and look at what they filed with LPC and go into our deliberations with more information with which to deliberate on. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Crassus.
Actually, I just wanted to thank the Crown Heights North Association for providing the letter in advance so that it could be put up in the Dropbox and be read in advance. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Okay, new business.
900 Sterling is going to come back in March. And we need to understand what those limitations are.
Thank you, Ms. Tyus. Any other matters for new business? I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Second.